Hello and welcome to Menvic Studio. My name is Angeli Wesiku. If you're coming across me for the first time, thank you for stopping by, and for my returning viewers, thank you for all of your support. So today I'll be discussing childcare in Scotland, and I'll be covering the cost of childcare for various settings, how most people cope with childcare. If you like the contents of my channel, do consider subscribing, like and share my videos with anyone who you think might find them interesting. So in Scotland, there is really no legal age at which you are allowed to leave your child alone at home. So parents are expected to use their discretion. They understand their children better, so they should use their discretion to decide when they can actually leave their children alone at home. Having said this, it is very important to mention that most parents err on the side of caution, and they don't really leave their children alone until they are nearly adults. And this is because if something goes wrong, you could get into a lot of trouble with social service getting involved, and you could end up losing your children and could also be charged to court for neglect. A full day at daycare is roughly 10 hours, and it's typically between the hours of 7 till 10. And this is designed in such a way that working parents would have the time in the morning to drop off their kids at the daycare or nursery, and then in the evening they have the time to come and pick them up from work. So for children who are less than 3 years old, if both parents are needing to work full-time, which means they would have to keep their child in the daycare for full-time, and this is about 10 hours a day like I mentioned, then you'll be looking to pay nothing less than £1,000 per month. This can be significantly higher depending on where you're looking or the daycare you're looking at, but it won't be less. So how do parents cope? Well, most people who live here, who are from here, who have families around here, like most of my colleagues at work do, they could have their children go to one grandparent for some part of the week and then another grandparent for another part of the week, and that way they can work full-time. Others might have one of the parents working full-time and the other parent working part-time, and then they use just the help of one grandparent for the time when the part-time parent is at work. So for most immigrants, the most common way I have seen is for both couples to work opposite shifts. So which means at every particular time, there is always a parent at home to look after the children, and that way they avoid the cost of childcare. Another way I have seen for couples who don't have the option of working shifts at their job is for both couples to work full-time and then just have their child or children in daycare full-time. This option is not really popular because it supposes that both couples would have high-paying jobs, which would make this financially viable. The third option, which is also not very popular, is where one parent works full-time and then the other parent works part-time. So the child or children only go to daycare when the parent who work part-time is at work. Personally, this is my most preferred option, and this was what we did when our daughter was less than 3 years old. Because we had just been in the country for less than 2 years, it was really important to us that she started mingling with people in the society from early age, but also get some quality time with me. So when your child turns 3, the cost of childcare is significantly less, and this is because currently every child from the age of 3 till they turn 5 is entitled to 1,140 hours of early childhood education. So this works out to about roughly 30 hours a week when schools are in session. If you want your child in nursery full-time, which is 10 hours a day like I mentioned before, then you can use a private nursery for the rest of the hours not covered by the government funding and pay this out of your own pocket. You can also decide to only use a private nursery that accommodates the government funding and spread your 1,140 hours throughout the year to about 50 weeks, leaving you with only 6 weeks when the child is at home. Spreading out the hours works best for families where one of the parents work part-time. You can work it out in such a way that, for example, one parent works 20 hours a week and utilize about 22 hours of your childcare per week. Then the rest of the 6 weeks the child is not at the nursery can be covered using annual leave between both parents. This way you can entirely avoid the cost of childcare whilst having both parents maintain an employment. Alternatively, if one or both parents have some flexibility in their working location, aka known as working from home, then it's possible to entirely avoid childcare costs. You can just use the government's 1,140 hours and have the child looked after at home whilst you're working. You would need to be super organized though for this to work out, and you have to start building up your child to be somewhat independent from really early age. When our daughter was between the ages of 3 and just before she turned 5, I mostly worked full-time. My husband has always worked full-time. But between me having the summer holidays off due to being a teacher and my husband having the flexibility of where to work from home, we only had our daughter in the nursery for 4 days a week, and it was just the term times only. And this saved us a lot of money. When a child turns 5, they move to primary school, and the primary school day roughly runs from 8:45 to 3:15 and 8:35 to 3:45 for secondary schools. There are slight variations between local authorities. For example, schools in my local authority close at 12:20 or 12:30 on Fridays. And I have also worked in local authorities where 2 days in a week they closed at 2:45. The other 3 days in the week they closed at 3:45. But one thing is pretty much consistent. Schools do not start before 8 a.m. So most working parents, especially with primary school age children, tend to enroll or get their children into what is called breakfast club, and also get them into after school club, just so they are never alone at home. Breakfast club starts much earlier than schools at about 8:15, and this gives parents time to drop off their child and get to work early, and they are generally within the school at no extra cost. After school clubs, however, are usually out with the school and will likely incur some fees. And most providers will pick up your child from school to their facility where they keep the children engaged in activities till around 5:30 or 6 p.m. when the parents come and pick the children up. Some of the providers even offer services whereby you can drop off your child early in the morning, say around 7 a.m., and they will take them to school when the school opens, and then they pick them up after school, take them to their facilities where they keep them engaged in activities till around 5:30 or 6 p.m. when you come and pick them up. A number of other families use nannies as well, so they drop off their child with a nanny in the morning. The nanny takes the child to school. After school, the nanny picks the child up, take the child to their place, and keep the child engaged, and the parents go and pick the child up from the nanny's place. A morning drop-off service would cost roughly £5 to £10 a day, and there'll be breakfast included. And afternoon pickup service would cost roughly £23 to £26 a day. Nannies might be cheaper if you have that option in your area. I personally haven't had the option to use a nanny, and this is because they are independent and they incur very little to no running costs. Most secondary school kids find their way to school either by walking or by taking the bus, and when they are home, they are capable of staying a few hours alone until an adult returns home. So you may not need to have a childminder or a sitter for a secondary school age child. But however, this is again at the discretion of the parents, and it totally depends on the maturity of your child. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the video interesting and useful. Do not forget to like the video, comment and share the video with anyone who you think might find it interesting.